In this video, we will be going deeper into the yogic process by exploring the 8 limbs of Patanjali's Yoga Sutras. The 8 limbs are known as Ashtanga in Sanskrit and are an expansion upon the 6 limbs, which are known as Sadanga, found in an earlier text called the Mayatri Upanishads. And what Patanjali does is he kindly adds 2 more limbs to the beginning of the steps. We consider these 2 additional limbs to be the ethics of yoga. Let's start by chanting the invocation to the Patanjali Sutras. So I invite you to find a comfortable tall seat, and we'll take a deep breath in. And with your exhale, just release any tension in your shoulders, in your neck, in your hips, in your legs, in your feet. And we begin the chant with an Om. We'll take an inhale together, exhale fully, and inhale for Om. Yogena chatasya padena vakam malam sirisya chavajakena jopakaratam uravaram muninam Patanjali Manjali Rana Toshmi. Yoga is a practice in which the practitioner experiences success in stages. Yes, there is a goal in yoga, and we will get to that goal by following the 8 limbs of Patanjali's Yoga Sutras. The Yoga Sutras are categorized into the systematic, step-by-step methodology of the Raja Yoga path. In Raja Yoga, a practitioner must only follow the yoga formula to become an accomplished yogi. This seems simple enough, but it's actually a lot of very complicated steps that we have to take and can take years, a lifetime of practice. At this point in our Yoga Sutra study, we have been learning many new concepts that are allowing us to understand more about ourselves and to understand more about the world that is around us. We have explored the way the mind works. We've explored the obstacles to happiness. We've explored ways to calm the mind and much more. What we're going to do is we'll take this newfound knowledge as our roots, and we can now begin to expand and explore the 8 limbs of yoga. The 8 limbs of Patanjali's Yoga Sutras are Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyana, and Samadhi. We will begin at Sutra 2.28 by practicing the 8 limbs of yoga, the impurities, which are the cause of all the suffering and discomfort that we experience in our human experience, are destroyed. When the impurities are destroyed, then can dawn the light of wisdom. Sutra 2.35. 2.35 is going to introduce us to the ethics of yoga. This sutra states that the yamas are the restraints that we should follow in our lives. And if we want to progress along the yogic path, we must refrain from violence. We must refrain from being untruthful. We must refrain from a deep desire to want. We restrain from excess, from trying to create and have too much, and we also restrain from constantly seeking more in our lives. And the next few sutras are going to go through those one step at a time. Sutra 2.35 is about ahimsa. Ahimsa is the practice of nonviolence. Since the yogi is concerned with how one action causes a reaction, we try to find nonviolence in all ways. Nonviolence in our action, in our word, and in our thought. We practice nonviolence outwardly, which is ahimsa, and we also follow nonviolence inwardly, himsa. This is an effort to be kind to ourselves. Sutra 2.36 is satya. Satya translates as truthfulness. And on the simplest level, the act of being untruthful can leave the mind constantly busy. If you're being untruthful, you're constantly trying to remember the false narrative that you've told. On a deeper level, untruthfulness can lead to the pain and suffering of others. So we practice truthfulness to balance the energy between us and other people as well. Sutra 2.37 is asteya. Asteya is not stealing, but it is also to not want. Asteya is also associated with having the valor of being a trustworthy person. Sutra 2.38, brahmacharya. Brahmacharya is the practice of moderation. Some say that brahmacharya is the same as the practice of celibacy, which could be true for those who follow a more strict lineage or those who are following a path to monkhood. When Krishnamacharya, the grandfather of modern yoga, went to study with the sages in the Himalayas, he was told to bring his wife and family along with him. In many yogic traditions, there is no issue with families and marriage. In other traditions, those devotees who are initiated into the lineage of a monk, what we call a sannyas, do take a vow of celibacy. For the modern yogi, moderation is still an important concept to keep ourselves healthy, to keep ourselves happy, and to follow along in this middle path that we've discovered through yoga. Sutra 2.39, aparigraha. Aparigraha is non-possessiveness or non-greediness. Those that are unhealthily and constantly wanting more are engaged in a losing battle. There will always be something just out of reach. There will always be something else to try and achieve or try to receive. So we move from the first limb of the yamas to the second limb, the niyamas. And the niyamas are the observances that we should follow in our lives. 2.40 and 2.41, saucha, this idea of purity and cleanliness in all aspects of our life. If the body is not taken care of, then often it will become ill. If your space is messy and cluttered, then it can be very difficult for the mind to feel anything but cluttered as well. It will be difficult to move through our yoga practice with the mind cluttered and the body ill. Saucha is both externally practiced, like cleaning the body, but can also be internally practiced. Some of our kriyas are developed like Kapalabhati to help to cleanse the mind. 2.42 is santosha, and santosha is contentment. Contentment is a wonderful virtue to cultivate. It is a direct reflection of the bliss that is experienced once one has begun to feel the connection to universal oneness. The observance of contentment in itself helps to cleanse and purify the mind. Sutra 2.43 is tapas. Tapas translates as fire, the element of transformation. Tapas is the practice of self-discipline, and self-discipline is a catalyst for transformation, and it is a key aspect for the evolution of your own spiritual practice. When you rub your hands together, that action causes warmth. There is friction between the hands, and as a reaction, your hands heat up. With your practice, if you can begin to create a schedule and find a discipline, this is through your meditation, this is through your yoga asana, then the friction, the heat that is created from that very focused practice, that daily practice will allow you to progress further along the yogic path. The fire and passion that comes with both enjoying yoga as a broader concept and the joy of the asana practice helps to transform the body. The study of the yogic path and the philosophy helps to transform the mind. A little difficulty, new ideas, new releases in the body, a new focus, this all allows us to grow on our spiritual journey. 2.44, we move back to this idea of swadhyaya, which was mentioned earlier in the Yoga Sutras in book 2. The word swadhyaya is composed of the words swa. Swa translates as self, and yaya, meaning an investigation or to investigate. Swadhyaya is self-reflection or any study that leads to the knowledge of the true self. Swadhyaya can be practiced in a number of ways. You may decide to study ancient texts, or perhaps you enjoy chanting mantras. Both of these will help you to understand the essence of your truest being, of the self with a capital S. These practices all help you to move away from the active, controlling aspects of the mind. They help to clear the mind. Another wonderful teacher is to sit in nature and learn to observe the same knowledge that the ancestors and the ancient sages observed. Nature is a window into the self, is a window into understanding true knowledge. Sutra 2.45, Ishwara Pranidhana. Ishwara Pranidhana translates as absorption into the self. Ishwara refers to the supreme consciousness, and Pranidhana in this case is translated as a full surrender or an easing into. This sutra reminds us that we are part of the greater whole that is the universal consciousness. When we are practicing the yamas and niyamas, we aren't practicing just for ourselves, but we are actively practicing for the whole of creation. In each action we take, we should try to maintain this feeling of universal connection. In the space of universal understanding, when we are able to feel this deep connection, we experience santosha, or contentment. We move on to the third rung, or the third limb, and that is the asana, or posture. And asana has been a topic of debate amongst the yoga community and scholars. Just how long have all the yoga poses that we know been practiced for? Have we been practicing these same postures for 50 years? 100 years? Has it been thousands of years that these asana postures have been around? While there is a good reason to believe that the yoga asana we practice today has greatly evolved from the asana during the time of Patanjali, it is also very evident that asana and the physical body play an important part of the yogic process. So 2.46. Asana should be both steady, sthira, and comfortable or enjoyable, sukha and sthira. When mastering asana, one must begin to find the blend of ease and effort, an even blend of yin passive and yang active, of masculine and feminine energies. And this should be felt throughout their whole entire being, from the muscles and the tendons, to the thoughts and the movement of the mind, the worries we may experience. 2.47 tells us that asana perfection is reached by relaxed effort. This relaxed effort leads to the ability to meditate on the infinite, to meditate on expansion, to meditate on oneness. And in 2.48 we learn that asana is mastered when there is a cessation of disturbances between dualities. The practitioner is in a state where the body, mind, and spirit are in full union. There is a story of an elderly guru who was at one point being interviewed for a magazine article. Naturally, the photographers wanted to film the guru performing asana postures, and the guru's followers quickly stepped in and told the photographers that it was probably best that the elderly guru did not perform asana at this time. The reason that they gave was because he hadn't been practicing complex yoga asana poses other than the asana that he needed for meditation. To the devotee's surprise, the guru waved away their succession and proceeded to move into some fairly complex advanced asana poses. Of course, the photographers were delighted, but they were also amazed. The photographers asked the guru, how is it that at your age you can perform these asanas? I don't think I could. And especially because you just said that you haven't been practicing them recently. The guru replied that asana is mastered when you can master the energy that is flowing in and around the body. When the body, mind, and external energy are in alignment with the spirit, you recognize the true nature of yourself. And at that point, the body no longer becomes an obstacle. So the guru had moved beyond the obstacles of the physical body. Moving on to the fourth limb, pranayama. Pranayama is the breath. Pranayama is one of my personal favorite facets of the yoga practice. Pranayama is both complex and simple. It is simple because it is easily accessed. The breath is always there. We feel it. You can connect with it very easily, and through the breath you can actually experience the bliss of existence. It is complex in the way that the pranayama practice connects to our vital life source, into the oxygen that we breathe, into the prana. It is complex in the way that the breath affects and intertwines with the psyche, with the emotion, with the mind, and the link to consciousness. In both our asana and our meditation practices, we practice awareness of the breath. It is no doubt a key element of all yoga practices. Pranayama is one of the practices that can lead you directly to enlightenment. We will learn more about that in a moment once we get through to the end of the 8 limbs. Pranayama can be translated as unrestrained energy flow. We have the word prana, meaning the life force energy, and we have ayama, meaning unrestrained. Pranayama can also be a practice of restraining and controlling the breath with the goal of toning the breath, much like we tone our muscles when we go to the gym and work out. When we explore the breath through consciously controlling the movement of the breath, then at times when we are not practicing, the breath will find itself subtle and smooth. The breath becomes meditative and calm, even when not practicing. The pranayama practice may be translated as prana, life force energy, and then using the word yama, meaning to restrain. To practice pranayama is to work with the prana or the primordial energy that animates all life. We use external energy to cleanse and regulate the energy flowing within us. And if you would like to learn more about pranayama, please check out our video on pranayama. BKS Iyengar says that pranayama, which is the 4th constituent of yoga, is what the heart is to the human body. That's how important the pranayama practice is to the whole of yoga. And Sutra 1.33 tells us that the mind is calmed by controlling the inhale and the exhale. We start pranayama with Sutra 2.49. In Sutra 2.49 we learn that pranayama is regulation of inhale and exhale with retention. And it's important to know that there are three parts to the breath. We have our puraka, which is the breath coming in. We have a kumbhaka, which is the retention of the breath. And then we have a rechaka, which is when we exhale, expulsion of breath. In 2.50, we learned that pranayama has three movements as well. There's external or exhalation, which is known as baya. There is internal or inhalation, known as antara. And there is stationary or retained stamba, natural stillness. And natural stillness can be external or internal. The stamba is a meditative state that is hidden within each breath that we take. The more we focus on the relaxed retention, the deeper into the meditative state we can travel. Sutra 2.51 refers to the fourth pranayama, which is also known as the transcendent pranayama. Transcendent pranayama occurs when pranayama finds its own natural rhythm independent of control. It is beyond the external and internal components of the breath. The practice is effortless and completely non-deliberate. The wording of the fourth pranayama may also allude to the fourth state of consciousness. Yoga philosophy teaches us that the mind exists in four stages of conscious awareness. First, we have the waking state. This is the state of awareness that we are most used to experiencing. The mind and the physical awareness of what's happening around us are fully active. Next, we have the dreaming state. This is the state of awareness when we experience dream. The mind and physical awareness may still be active, but not fully active. You do not typically recall every single dream that you have. So while the mind is having activity, it's not fully aware. We then shift into this idea of the deep sleep state, and this is the state of awareness beyond dreaming. There is very little mental activity happening in this state of awareness. And last, we move to the fourth state, the transcendent state of awareness, which is beyond the previous three levels of awareness that we just spoke about. It is associated with one who has experienced kaivalya, or liberation. You might even say enlightenment. There is a state of deep connection where this is a state of deep connection where the practitioner no longer needs to use mental activity and physical awareness to understand the nature of all things. Knowledge is simply revealed. In Sutra 2.52, we learn that by practicing pranayama, the veil that is casting a shadow over the light of wisdom is lifted. The true essence of the self, big S, then will shine forth. Once this happens, 2.53 tells us that then the mind is fit for concentration. With the veil lifted, the mind is ready to accept the truth and realization that it is part of the soul and a part of the greater self. The next limb is pratyahara, which is referred to as sense withdrawal. In 2.54, we learn that when the mind withdraws from the sense objects, and the senses then draw inward, we have reached pratyahara. When the mind is attracted to the connection that it has with the universal consciousness, it becomes disinterested in the stimulation found from our senses. So images, sounds, touch, taste, smell. The senses themselves, recognizing that the mind is withdrawn, also withdraw. This takes a lot of practice. 2.55. As a result of pratyahara, control of the senses follows. Now that the practitioner experiences the cessation of seeking the external senses and seeking the external pleasures associated with them, the internal practice that is yoga begins. There is a great example of the pratyahara practice, and if you've ever been in a big city, you may have seen monks who are meditating in a crowded public space. Sometimes these monks may be found in New York City's Times Square or San Francisco's Washington Square Park. These meditation practitioners have begun to master the practice of pratyahara to the point where they can sit and meditate in some of the most stimulating environments that you can think of. The next limb of the Yoga Sutras is dharana. And dharana is a single-pointed meditation. 3.1 tells us that by fixing the mind on one object, a single-pointed meditation is dharana. In this meditation, there's a subject and there's an object. And dharana is something that is practiced. It is an act of actually doing. There is focus, there is awareness. There is awareness of the self, of the body, breath, the mind, and the feeling. And in dharana, the practitioner is the subject of the meditation. There is also an awareness of the object of meditation. And the object can be any point of concentration that you choose. It may be a flame, it could be the breath, it could be a flower, a repetitive movement, a mantra, it could be a prayer. Now moving along the limbs, we shift from dharana to dhyana. Dhyana is a sustained awareness. Sutra 3.2. Steadfastness of the mind, sustained focused awareness in your meditation is dhyana. In dhyana, the subject that we spoke about and the object begin to merge into one. The duality is broken. Dhyana is not actively practiced. There is no active doing. There is only a subtle flow of awareness happening in dhyana. In dhyana, the mind is no longer actively analyzing the self, the small s, the subject. And the mind is no longer analyzing the object of meditation. The practitioner is simply in a state of ease, but there is still some subtle awareness taking place. You may experience this in your meditations. You know that point where you feel good or you feel at ease and you feel in the flow, even though that awareness of being in the flow, being aware of that feeling, doesn't disturb your meditation. In this moment, the subtle flow of awareness still exists. We can use the Kriya practice of Tritak meditation to simplify our understanding of dharana and dhyana. Tritak is best practiced at night right before bed, and in Tritak what we do is we'll take a candle and place it a few feet in front of us, about the same height of the eyes if you can, and of course we'll light the candle, and the meditation will be on the flame. And you want to be in a meditative position where you can easily keep your eyes on the flame for a sustained amount of time. In the beginning of this meditation, you will begin by connecting to your asana, to your posture, and then connecting to the pranayama, to the breath flow. The eyes softly stare into the flame that is before you. And at this point, you're already practicing dharana. The focus has left the body and the breath, and the focus has shifted now to the flame. You may find yourself needing to come back to the body and to the breath to refocus and still the mind. Once again, returning your awareness back to the flame. So in this dharana practice, we're moving back and forth between awareness of ourselves, the subject, and awareness of the flame, the object. At some point in the meditation, there is a shift of energy. you no longer begin to focus your awareness back to the body or back to the breath. And the flame still has the attention of the eyes, but your awareness is no longer analyzing the dance and beauty of the flame itself. The flame exists, you exist, but the awareness is not focused on either you or the flame. At this point, the practitioner has reached and shifted into the state of dhyana. This experience is easeful and very tender. And climbing up to the last rung, to the 8th limb, samadhi or bliss. Yoga Sutra 3.3, when the true nature of the swarupa of an object shines forth, undisturbed by the mind, this is samadhi. Samadhi is beyond practice, and it's even beyond non-practice. The practitioner has now entered a state of pure bliss, their whole being, their whole consciousness, all of their awareness. In samadhi, we're undisturbed from the obstacles to happiness and become immersed in just being. In review, the 8 limbs of Patanjali's Yoga Sutras are yama, niyama, asana, pranayama, pratyahara, dharana, dhyana, and samadhi. By following these 8 limbs or these 8 steps on your yogic path, you will come to the goal of yoga. To drop all that is not the self with a big S. We drop the body, the mind, time, spatial awareness, and we connect to the inner stillness and bliss of our existence. Thank you for joining. Namaste.